day. Thank you. I thank you very much for coming in. Remember, turn off your phones, please. Silence your phone. Good morning, Joanne. Thank you for joining us from sunny Boston. Or
yes. Well, actually, it is sunny. We're waiting for the snowstorm.
yeah, all right. We have, let's see, I want to pull my agenda up. I started to do this a second ago.
Can you start the video so I can see you? All I see is a CCNA.
I will in a second here. Let me do, I will.
I don't think I got an agenda. Did you send it out?
I did.
When did you send it? Search it.
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah. All right, let's start video. There we go. How's that, Joanne?
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right. So, the code of conduct. What is that? I don't want that. We will be respectful of each other. We will speak to the issue. Like I always say, look around you. You're either a volunteer, and we're going to be nice to volunteers because they're volunteering their time, or they're here from the city, and we need them to help us get things done. Mr. Costa.
Yes.
There you are. Do you, did you go around the room and, just pass that down to him, recognition of special guests?
Okay, we'd like to thank Commissioner Jan. Where are you? Raise your hand, please. There you go. Thank you. Debbie Trice, Commissioner. Thank you. Mark Smith, Commissioner from the county. Thank you. I'm looking around. Nick Patel, City Engineer. Thank you. And of course, there's Steve Colbert, Director. And Nancy Kelly, where are you? And did I miss anybody out there? Oh, Ryan, you snuck in on me. Thank you. And Brianna? And I don't know the lovely girl next to you. Rebecca. Well, at least I forgot your name. Did I miss anybody? All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lou. Let's have, what does Pat call you, Gronk?
Everything's going Officer Matt, it's fine.
Officer.
Grouch, but
Oh, Grouch, that's right, Grouch. Come on up here and give us a report on the activity in the city, please. No, you stand, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yep. Okay, that's right. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Happy New Year. I'm just here to, so my name is Officer Matt. A lot of you have seen me walking downtown. I am now part of our community relations unit. So you'll be seeing us a lot more all over Instagram and everything and all the events that we attend. I am taking over for Officer Robbins. So I have given out some business cards, so if you need any assistance with anything, please don't hesitate to email or call me. I'm available. So, all right, I'm gonna start off with some stats for the year. So murder, we had 0 this year, which is way better than last year. We had 6. Aggravated assaults, we had 200 this year, and then last year we had 226. So we're down a little bit in that.
Are these 2023 stats?
The first one is 2023, I'm sorry, and then the other one's, I'm going to 2022 just to compare.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yep,
Comparing, I apologize.
that's all right.
So for 2023 for robberies, we had 70, and then 2022 we had 68, so up 2 this year. For sex crimes in 2023 we had 25, and then in 22 we had 24, so +1, so that's not good. Burglaries, we had in 2023 139, and then in 2022 we had 213. Larcenies from vehicles, we had 243 this year, and then 286, so down. What a good number. They're starting to head down. So people remember to lock their cars, and that's an important thing. So, and not leaving valuables so people can smash into the vehicle and stuff like that. And then the last thing, motor theft vehicles, is there were 130 this year, and last year there were 177, so the number's way down, so that's a good thing. So once again, locking your cars, making sure not to leave your keys in there, so it's a good thing. So, all right, thank you. And if you have any other questions for me, like I said, please email me. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just one. I've seen there's been some correspondence back and forth on public access regarding statistics that I guess the FBI reports as opposed to SPD. And it looks like and particularly the downtown streets, that there's a lot of incidents that are being reported, at least publicly, and it didn't seem like it was showing up on the SPD stats that the neighborhoods got. You know why?
I don't have the answer for that right now. I'll have to get with our analyst about that. So I will. She is out of town right now. So when she gets back, I can. Please send me an email on that, and then so I can find out more for you. I just.
And please copy us.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Any others? Well, thank you for your time, and Happy New Year.
Thank you for yours.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Yeah. I noticed we're having battery issues. There we go. I noticed Mr. Brown snuck into the room while we were getting our report. Marlon. So we have a special presentation today from planning on the zoning text amendments that they are going to be proposing about affordable housing in the corridors. So if we can, if I can ask our officers to vacate and let our good people from planning have the stage, please. And this is a good battery. And you want
This should be the PowerPoint should be open. So the camera's just looking straight at me.
You're right there. What was open? Go, you have to reopen it. So again, I have asked Steve if they will focus on the differences between the downtown ZTA, which has been passed already, and what they're proposing now. So we need, in the interest of time, and to get to these people's questions. Who's starting out? You. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Steve Gover, Planning Director here at the City of Sarasota. But before we get started, I'd like to throw something out to you that I think a lot of you would be interested in. Architecture Sarasota has scheduled a 4-part speaker series that's going to be held over at the Art Ovation Hotel at 6 p.m. January 24th, Andres Duani is coming to speak. That should be really interesting because he was here. He actually prepared the downtown plan almost 24 years ago now. And then on January 31st is David Poole, who's kind of a futurist in the planning area. Mitchell Silver, who's been one of the leaders of the National American Planning Association. He will be speaking February 14th. And on February 28th, Victor Dover, who's really well known for a lot of his new urbanist work that he's done throughout the state and elsewhere. So anyway, just wanted to give you that information because I think some of you might be interested in attending those presentations.
Are they all at the same time?
They're all at 6 o'clock at Art Ovation, right. Okay, we'll jump into our presentation. I know there's some time constraints here, so what we're going to be doing is giving you a little bit of an abbreviated presentation, really focusing on the key recommendations that are part of this zoning text amendment. And then Monday, there's a workshop with the commission, and we will be giving the full presentation then. Looking back, this was initially, when this was started, we identified it as a 3-phase process. The first being securing the comprehensive plan changes with the commission approved, and that laid the groundwork for the zoning text amendments, which is what we're working on right now. The first set of zoning text amendments dealt with downtown only, and those were unanimously approved by the commission in last year. And then the second part of that is the commercial corridors and commercial sites, which is really the remaining component of these zoning text amendments, and that's what we're going to be covering today. The third part is actually comprehensive rezoning, which is really well into the future. We're not going to be dealing with that probably at the earliest into 2025 or 2026. Keep in mind, we're only focusing on commercial corridors and commercial sites today, and this will complete all of our zoning text amendment proposals. This effort does not rezone any property. None of the zoning changes with this zoning text amendment. We're only creating new zoning categories, which then can be pursued in the future. We had a lot of public input on this, as you're aware, and we'll touch on that in our presentation. One of the things we heard loud and clear is the issue of width of sidewalks and street trees. We will be addressing that today. And then finally, community workshops, which I know is something you guys are really interested in. We'll be addressing that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Brianna.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Brianna Dobbs, Chief Planner of the Planning Department. Again, just quickly going over what has been approved. So the City Commission approved these ordinances in October of 2022, and it designated the new urban mixed-use future land use classification along these corridors and centers. So if you can see this map with the green areas highlighted, those are the areas that have the adopted urban mixed-use future land use classifications. This PowerPoint is online, so you can access it and then zoom in so you can see more clearly exactly which parcels are designated. The urban mixed-use future land use classification allows for mixed-use development, again, along corridors and centers, and it allows for attainable housing density bonus up to 3 times the base density of the future land use classification. So this is a little different than the downtown attainable housing density bonus that allowed for 4 times the base density of that zone district. This allows for 3 times the base density of the future land use classification. So 3 times 25 as well as 3 times 35 units per acre in the North Trail. And this is already what's approved in the comp plan. And it also allows for a vertical and horizontal forms of mixed-use development. We started this outreach back in the fall. We held different open houses for the North, South, and East Sarasota. Here's some photos. There's some more open house style and received comments on different comment cards. And then just some examples of the ongoing outreach, again, with our open houses, as well as a virtual public input session. We met with the Chamber of Commerce for the Governmental Issues Council yesterday, and then here today. So we have been pretty active with the outreach for the zoning text amendment. The general characteristics of the adopted urban mixed-use future land use classification include a goal to incentivize attainable housing through private development and create diverse, walkable neighborhoods through a functional and sustainable urbanized community. This is within the areas of existing commercial centers and corridors, which currently has predominantly one type of use, which is either office and commercial, and it's envisioned that these areas will transition to a varied mix of land uses over time. So this is something that will be happening over decades and not to occur very quickly. Again, right now, this is just only to draft these zoning text amendments and these zone districts. And then also making sure that we incorporate the building intensities, densities, uses, and heights of new development and redevelopment must be sensitive to adjacent and nearby uses to assure functional and aesthetic compatibility. So these are the general goals of the urban mixed-use future land use classification, and then through the zoning text amendments of the zone districts to implement the comprehensive plan. So again, the future land use is urban mixed use, and then on the right are the new proposed zone districts, or the implementing zone districts of that future land use classification. So the three include urban mixed use 1 or MU1, urban mixed use 2 or MU2, and then urban mixed use 3 or MU3. So currently in the North Trail, the zoning has a base density of 35 units per acre. So when we're talking about the MU3 zone district, since that is different and already has a higher density, that's going to be primarily on the North Trail and those NT zone districts. All right, so going into some of the more details of these zone districts, speaking about height first, the MU1 has a permitted base height by right at 3 stories. When we looked at creating and drafting these zone districts, we looked at the different zones that currently are already within that area, and many of them already have a height of 35 feet. So the permitted height by right is 3 stories. When designating an additional 5% of the bonus units as attainable housing, they would be able to achieve an additional story of 4 stories. And then also, if designating an additional 5% on top of that, so 10% of an additional, they would be able to achieve up to 5 stories. However, it is important to note that the locations of any building that's 5 stories could only be on parcels that are 3 acres or larger. The location of those in the city, there's currently about 35 out of approximately 700 parcels that have this urban mixed-use future land use classification. So approximately 5% may be able to achieve that 5 stories or higher. And it also has to be a portion of the site within 100 feet of the single-family residentially zoned property. The maximum height is 4 stories. So there is a buffer between the 5 stories and the single-family zone. For the MU2 zone district, the maximum height permitted by right is 4 stories. And when development provides an additional 5% attainable housing, they could achieve up to 5 stories. This is only for, again, the parcels that are 3 acres or larger, and it's only for the buildings that have the attainable units. So it's not for the entire parcel, just for the portions of the buildings that have the attainable units. And then again, for the MU3, the permitted base height by right is 4 stories. And when providing that additional attainable housing, so additional 5%, they could achieve up to 5 stories, again, on parcels 3 acres or larger, and has to be outside of the 100-foot buffer from residential single-family zone districts. And there's also a daylight plane requirement. This is an existing requirement for the North Trail Overlay District. And the purpose of the daylight plane is to enhance compatibility between zone districts by creating a gradual increase in height, also to promote a reasonable building scale, and also promote privacy for neighboring properties. You can see this image, an example of the daylight plane, the residential single family on the right, and then the development on the left side of the screen, and it does create this transition. And the daylight plane requirement allows for a maximum height of 2 stories, starting at the required or rear side setback line, and then extending upward at a 45-degree angle until reaching the maximum height limit. So going into the density, this is similar in ways to the downtown density bonus. Again, going over what the base density is permitted by right, and then what you can achieve when providing attainable housing on site for a minimum of 30 years. The MU1 zone district has a base density of 13 units per acre and could achieve up to 75 units per acre. And you can see the language that's highlighted in yellow. The maximum residential density shall not be greater than 3 times the permitted base density of the future land use classification. So the base density of the future land use classification is 25 units per acre. So the base density permitted by right is 13 units per acre, but when a development provides attainable housing on site for a minimum of 30 years, and 15% of those bonus units, so 15% of the bonus units above 13 units per acre, are designated as attainable, they could achieve up to 75 units per acre. For the MU2 zone districts, The permitted base density is 25 units per acre, and it could achieve up to 75 units per acre. Again, the 25 of the future land use classification times 3. And on the North Trail, the MU3 zone district is 35 units per acre and can achieve up to 105 units per acre. Because again, the base density of the future land use classification for North Trail is 35 times 3, getting to 105 units per acre. There is a tiering requirement for those units that are designated as attainable. At least 1/3 of the units must be designated at 80% area median income, or AMI, and below. No more than 1/3 of the units can be designated between 100 and 120, and then the remaining must be designated below 100% AMI. We do think this is a really great graphic to begin to humanize and understand what these occupations are in the city of Sarasota, who is working here, and who needs and deserves a housing to also be living here. And then again, just a summary chart of these development standards, because I know it is a lot of information. Going over the MU1 graphic, a base density of 13 units per acre, allowing up to 75 units per acre when taking advantage of the attainable housing density bonus. So that is the 15% of the bonus units must be designated as attainable housing, and they must be provided on site for a minimum of 30 years. The maximum height being 3 stories, but may achieve up to 5 stories when it is on a parcel that is 3 acres or larger, and it is outside of that 100-foot buffer requirement for residential single family. So again, just going over that maximum height. So it has 3 stories by right. They may achieve an additional story when providing 20% of those bonus units as attainable. And when 25% of the bonus units are designated as attainable, that's when they could achieve up to 5 stories, but again, on the parcels 3 acres or larger. For MU2, is 25 units per acre and may achieve up to 75 units per acre with the attainable housing density bonus. The maximum height by right is 4 stories and may achieve up to 5 stories under those certain conditions. And again, MU3 at 35 units per acre up to 105 units per acre with the attainable housing density bonus, and permitted 4 stories by right and up to 5 stories on those parcels 3 acres or larger. There are going to be frontage standards that are required for classified roadways, so along Fruitville Road, 301, US 41, and this is to create a better pedestrian experience. We see these in the North Trail Overlay District currently, and also within the downtown zone districts. We also know the importance of clear and wide sidewalks as well as street trees. So there is a requirement to have provide adequate space for a canopy tree as well as sidewalks. We know that the trees slow down traffic and also protect the pedestrian. And then the image on the right is an example of a development that was built under the North Trail Overlay District. And it has the glazing and the windows requirements, so we don't have blank walls, which also is good for the pedestrian experience. It has the parking in the rear, and it screens the parking as well. So with the sidewalk system requirement, the zoning text amendment proposes to require an 8-foot minimum amenity zone. So this is the location for the trees and the street lights, as well as a 6-foot pedestrian zone. This map shows the locations of the existing zoning lots that are 3 acres or larger. There are 35 currently that are 3 acres or larger. And again, there are approximately 700 parcels that have the existing urban mixed-use future land use classification today. So less than 5% of the parcels would have the ability to achieve that 5-story height. And many of these parcels are already developed or being redeveloped, so it would be even less of a parcels that would be able to achieve that height. These commercial centers, again, are 3 acres and larger. They provide a maximum building width and design standards and do have an open space requirement of 10%. They may be able to achieve that additional height, but only when providing additional attainable housing, and they must provide a 100-foot buffer from single-family residentially zoned properties. And just a quick graphic to show a conceptual sprawl rendering as well as conceptual complete community. You can go from one to the other by providing connectivity and internal street network, providing that neighborhood connections, establishing internal streets and block patterns, reinforcing the corners with architecture, and screening surface parking lot. There's an existing review process that was adopted within the comprehensive plan in fall of 2022, and its action strategy 2.15. The city shall utilize an administrative review process for site plan applications when the construction of attainable housing units will occur on the development site and when the site plan application qualifies for bonus density units. So essentially, when a development is providing and taking advantage of the attainable housing density bonus within the urban mixed-use zone districts, they have the ability and will be reviewed administratively. And this has been adopted and is in the comp plan currently. There also will be a community workshop requirement. So whenever a development takes advantage of the attainable housing density bonus, they will be required to hold a community workshop. And quickly going over the vehicular parking requirements, the current North Trail Overlay District requires a 1-to-1 parking requirement, so one dwelling unit requires one parking space. We did hear at the open houses that that was not enough and wanting to be increased, so we're proposing 1.25 spaces per dwelling unit. We also have an adopted standard of a half a space for units that are designated as attainable housing, so that's already within the code today. The zoning text amendment also proposes one space for each 350 square feet of floor area, and then also the hotel and motel parking spaces is listed as well. And again, our timeline, we held the open houses through August and September of 2023 and continued with neighborhood outreach. We filed the zoning text amendment in October of 2023 and then got sign off from the DRC committee in November 15th, 2023, held our virtual input session in November. And then we are here today coming up on the City Commission workshop, which will be January 8th, 2024. We do encourage everyone to attend or stream. There will not be public comment at this time, but there will be a more detailed and larger presentation and then conversations and questions with the City Commission. We are also planning on attending and scheduled for the Planning Board on January 24th, 2024, and that will have the ability with public comment. And we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Sir, now, before we continue, the tents didn't make it here today. I don't know where they are. That's all right. When you speak, and since we are short of battery for the microphones, speak up, please. State who you are in your neighborhood. And so let's begin. Our from McClellan Park has a question.
Yes, Daniel Frank, McClellan Park. Could you go back to the slide on the parking? That went by fairly quickly, and I'd like to understand that a little better. So there would be 1.25 spaces for each ordinary non-attainable dwelling unit, but only half a space for each attainable unit?
Yes, that's correct. And the half a space has already been adopted throughout the downtown and then outside the downtown.
And is the theory that people with attainable units would just have fewer vehicles or no vehicles, or
Yeah.
what's the theory behind that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The question was, is the theory based on that attainable housing requires fewer vehicles? That really is the case. This is actually a national standard. In that attainable housing, a lot of people who live in attainable housing don't have cars and will use other means to travel around the city. So there's been a lot of research done on this, and it really actually does hold true. I know it might be a little counterintuitive, but actually it does work. I know when I was in Arlington, we were at 0.75 for affordable housing units, and you'd go into the parking lots and the parking garages, and they're like half empty. You know, so but it is pretty much a conventional national standard now. So good question.
Yeah, I think that's just a question that's going to come up because of concerns about the impact on surrounding streets, particularly in the corridors, right? So it's good to understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Miles Stolden with South Poinsettia Park, and as my colleague indicated, this is a question that will come up a lot. I won't fence with you on your the studies. I've certainly looked at a bunch of affordable housing myself, and there are a lot of nicer cars than I have in many of those parking lots. Be that as it may, we have 19 streets, 17 of which flow onto Tamiami Trail, and a chief concern of ours is exactly what the gentleman indicated, that with half a space, a lot of families have two cars per unit. How is the city proposing to mitigate the impact on surrounding streets? Regardless of what the research shows, there's a general sense in our community, and I suspect in many other communities, that there is going to be impact on surrounding residential streets. Increased traffic volume, potentially increased traffic speed, and certainly increased parking usage of the residential streets. So regardless of what the research study shows, if there's impact, how is the city proposing to mitigate that impact on surrounding streets?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, these are minimums, so, you know. Oh, okay. Yeah, the question was basically, you know, with these parking ratios, if projects are built and they have an impact where the parking is spilling over into the neighborhoods, you know, how's the city going to address that? You know, first thing is, these are minimums, so if a developer or an applicant wants to provide more parking, they can, and in many instances, they do that. If we're seeing a pattern, and I know this is kind of after the fact, but if we're seeing a pattern where parking is spilling over into the streets and it's not being met by the site, that's something we can definitely look at as far as, you know, making changes in the future. But as it stands right now, these seem to be working throughout the city. So, you know, this is what we're working with. That's a good question.
Rob. Yes, sir. Rob Grant, Arlington Park. Hey guys. I really appreciate the intent of this CTA, but I spent some good amount of time looking through the actual language and the details. I've got 3 specific concerns. I'll bring one up now, and if you can get back to me, that'd be great. The first one is about the daylight plane on page 1 at the very top. You know, the 3rd sentence reads, "The daylight plane may further limit the height or horizontal extent of the building at any specific point where the daylight plane is more restrictive than the height limit applicable at such point on the site." We're only at the 3rd sentence, and we've already got a major loophole, because that would require the director of planning services or staff to make a determination that could be challenged on appeal. I just think that's a problem. How about we change it to shall? I think the word shall would be a lot better for the neighborhoods.
I think it says mays because not in every circumstance it's going to, it depends on the depth of the lot. So if the depth of the lot is pretty shallow, then it would restrict the height. But if you had the requirement and you can meet the daylight plane requirement, then it wouldn't restrict it. I think that's why it says may.
Shall would, you know, make it a little more restrictive, and I think that would be better. This could be challenged at in the adjustment section. So I think it leaves a wide loophole there.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
You know, a lot of uncertainty.
Thanks.
There was, yes, over here, please.
Leslie Steiner, Alta Vista. I mean, I can tell you put a lot of effort and work into this, and a lot of thought. And so what I was wondering is, can you sort of give an estimate or a range of estimates, because I'm sure you've looked into houses potentially impacting the traffic and the water and all that sort of stuff. So could you give me an idea of what the estimates are that you're thinking about as far as the density and the number of attainable units that ultimately will get, let's just say, in 5 years? I'm sure you use that for projections.
Yeah, the question was, you know, looking 5 years out, what do we think the impacts will be? What will the potential build out be? Traffic impacts. We actually are going to be addressing traffic in more detail in the future. So yeah, we have kind of another presentation that. But yeah, we've looked at traffic, and you know, we're going to be addressing it in the future. It's really hard to predict, you know, what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Obviously, interest rates are much higher now, and so the development community is slowing down a little. Like Brianna said, you know, with what we're proposing here, you're not going to see all this built out. It's going to be decades and decades. A lot of it won't happen. A lot of these properties are already developed and they have no interest in doing this. So it's really hard to predict, particularly with the way the economy's going right now. So.
Do you use estimates to look at, like, the water, you know, how much water we have, and maybe like,
Yeah.
2026, so.
Yeah.
I think also just understanding this timeline, because this is just drafting the zone districts, and the timeline probably for the comprehensive rezone wouldn't happen until 2026. And so then, I think by 5 years, it would just even beginning to have projects start to be built.
I want to thank our Archangel Esther for running and getting batteries. Thank you very much.
I don't think they're still working.
You got it?
Wow.
Yeah, now it's working.
1, 2.
Yeah.
1, 2. Yeah. Okay. Name and neighborhood.
Oh, Ron Cashton, Laurel Park. I have a question and just one comment. Because these zone districts seem to be completely rewritten based upon the form-based code for downtown, there's a lot of aspects for all the affected 15 different zone districts that currently exist under the future land use. So it's hard to specify, go into individual questions. But one comment of going forward, when you specify stories, because the public, they experience the total height, couldn't you include just a request, if you could include a maximum height so that builders couldn't play with stories that we got with the Obsidian, that there is a maximum height that the public will experience. But my question for you is, because the bonus stories was a new concept to me, and that the lots that would have the bonus stories are 3 acres, wouldn't that just be an incentive for developers to consolidate lots like we see on the North Trail and like we saw on 301 right across from my neighborhood, Laurel Park? Wouldn't that just be, aren't you just incentivizing developers to just combine lots and then build the maximum height?
But they do have to meet these additional attainable housing density bonus requirements. So in order to achieve the additional density, right now it's 15% of the bonus units. So in MU1, they would then have to be providing 25% of the bonus units, additional attainable housing. So, it is an exchange for 1 story or 2 stories height for 5 and 10% more additional attainable housing.
David Lowe, Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. Brianna, I applaud this amenity zone requirement, but downtown, there's inevitably a gas line, a sewer line, a water line, and, the developer, I don't want to use the word refuses, but balks on the idea of paying to relocate that. How do you envision a requirement? Because I think in my experience, 50% of the time in that amenity zone, there's some kind of issue. How would you propose that be dealt with in the situation here?
Yeah, I think outside downtown, we're going to run into fewer instances of that because most of the utilities are running in the streets. Downtown's much more complicated. Plus, there's so much infrastructure in the streets and under the sidewalks. I don't think you're going to have that situation outside of downtown. So I think we'll run into less issues related to that.
Okay, but when you do, that would trump that would negate the requirement, shall we say, to plant the canopy trees if there were a water line?
Yeah, and I know going through the DRC process, the different individual reviewers, we always really do try to encourage the developers to move the water line, and if not, then possibly planting palm trees, but this really will just truly encourage the canopy trees. And in not many other locations in the zoning code do we have like a specific requirement of the amenity zone and the pedestrian zone.
Okay, my experience is the developers don't move, okay? It's a rare situation, so would there be an opportunity, I don't know how to do this, but a 50-50 split on cost between the city and the developer? Is there something out of the box, so as to speak, to make it a requirement of some kind of cost sharing?
I don't think that's a possibility, but it really would just be a case-by-case basis for if the developer would move anything or not, move a line. But
Okay, all right.
Are you gonna, we can only have time for one more, are you gonna yield?
Well, no, I'm not gonna yield time, but we might have time. I will roll mine all into one and suggest to you that this is a very important issue and you should extend the time, Mr. President.
Are you willing to go beyond 11 o'clock?
I'm willing to give up my neighborhood report right now and go beyond the 11 report. Okay, so I will try to roll this all into one big question because it's more process oriented and not detailed. By the way, Charlie Nagel-Schmidt, Broadway Promenade. In the past, community workshops were largely ignored by developers. Residents in the community had to chase people to really hold their feet to the fire. Then we changed community workshops, and I feel that they're even less effective today than they were in the past. So my part A of my question is, what can we do to strengthen the community workshop requirement in this ZTA, past ZTAs, and future ZTAs? Part B is this administrative approval, right? Now, why do we need to do this entirely under administrative approval, which my belief is that we exclude the planning board and we exclude the public and the residents and the neighborhoods, right? And I see a lot of things in this document that say, with the approval of the Director of Planning Services. Well, the Director of Planning Services seems to be quickly becoming a planning czar, right? And as a result, neighborhoods and residents are being sidelined, and we get to a point where the alternative is that we should basically take the issue to court if we feel that strongly about it, but it's very expensive to do that. So this entire process of community workshop, where is the strength in that for residents? Administrative approval, why should that supersede the existing process of planning board and public input? And I got one other thing that I can't lay my fingers on right now, so I'll ask you how we can fix this.
So the action strategy of 2.15 is already adopted within the comprehensive plan, and it specifically is related to the urban mixed use, future land use classification, as well as the urban mixed use zone district. So this is adopted in the comprehensive plan that states that if a development is taking advantage of that attainable housing density bonus, it shall be reviewed administratively. That's an already adopted process.
So why would the planning department want that? Why would you want public input, in this process?
Yeah, well, the commission made that decision. In the comprehensive plan, like Brianna said, the commission made that decision.
So we have 2 or 3 commissioners here today, so I'll say to those commissioners and to city management that you really should discuss this at the workshop, because what effectively is happening here is you are closing out input in the review process of residents and neighborhoods in the development process. And if we continue to dry our heels on this and don't fix this process, that pretty soon we won't have any place to develop in Sarasota, and then the process will be moved. But I think the process is severely broken, right? And I've been watching this for a few years now, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. It seems to be becoming more of an entrenched process. I get the emails out of City Hall on new developments, and they often arrive saying administrative approval. So by the time I know about something, it's already being fast-tracked. And I just think that there's a need to slow that down.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Eileen Normile from Hudson Bayou. Just a quick question. This is a simple one. Steve, to follow up on the parking question, the reduced parking requirements for affordable housing, when you studied the other communities, including Arlington, which you said was 0.75, which is a really small car, I wonder, did you control that study for the efficiency or even the existence of a public transport system? Because if you don't have a public transport system, then none of that matters when comparing it to Sarasota, which doesn't really have an effective public transport system. So I don't know a single policeman or a teacher who doesn't have a car. I mean, those are the people that you're pointing out, saying these are the people that we want to provide affordable housing for, but they all have cars. There's no bus going to Riverside High School if you're a teacher. So unless you control for that, so was that controlled for when you studied this issue? That's my question.
Yeah, getting back to the 0.5, the studies not only in urban areas, but also suburban areas and rural areas. That's how the 0.5 eventually was developed. So I agree with you. You think, well, if there's a lot of public transportation, I understand why it would be lower. The 0.5 works even in suburban and rural areas as well. It's just that in affordable or attainable housing, there just aren't as many people driving. And it's just, like I said, it's become pretty much a standard throughout the country.
Richard, I'm sorry, I have a follow-up to the parking.
Okay, just hang on, let me turn this back on for you. Works better.
Hi, Elizabeth Rose with Bay Point Park. This is actually a question I brought up a few years ago when Hagan, former Commissioner Brody, held a affordable housing workshop, I think. And my question was, what role the property appraiser can influence this? If a developer is building an apartment complex and his rental units are valued at market rate and his tax bill is at market rate, that's a huge question. And if someone manages to buy a condo, an affordable condo, if they don't have some kind of protection that their unit is not as valuable as the more expensive unit next door, that tax bill can sink them. So I don't expect you to have an answer now, but I'm hoping at maybe the workshop that comes up. I don't know what influence the property appraiser has on deflating a value, but I just think that's a big number that could sink a project. Thank you.
Was that, there was no question?
Well, that was a question, but I don't think there's an answer. Is there?
No, I do remember you asking that question. I feel like we did speak with the property appraiser, but I'd want to double check just to concur with everything and follow up again.
Yeah, I think developers want to know that. That could be a huge incentive for them or a huge disincentive for them.
All right, before I let Rob have another question, is there anybody else with a question? Okay, good, then Rob.
Thank you for the flexibility. Because parking is a big issue, and our neighborhood, which is historically affordable housing, though not so much anymore, we see the affordable rental homes, and there's 3, 4, 5 cars parked all across the yard. So I realize you have minimums here, but again, another loophole on page 49, and it says the parking reduction exception up to 50% of the total allowed by the planning board. So even though that's the minimum, they can apply to the planning board for an adjustment that would reduce that by 50% more. Is that correct? I mean, am I reading that right?
I believe it also states if it's a mixed-use development, so they're showing that the residential and office times, that there's not peak demand times at the same time. That's also an existing standard within the zoning code with most of those zone districts already.
Okay, no more. You're on. Works better if it's on. Since there are no more questions, we'll bring this to a close. Thank you very much for all your great questions.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everybody.
This one's dead. We'll throw it away. guy. Oh, he's loud. All right. Moving on to,
Did someone forget their coffee cup?
that's mine.
Oh.
Thank you. Is there anything left in it? Steve, we'll get a copy of the PowerPoint that you presented today. Please send it to Jim. He can get it on the website.
There's also a copy on our active ZTA website.
It's also under ETA. Very good. Okay. Moving on, I have some comments about the state of our neighborhoods. I want to say thank you. Also, Ms. Panica walked in. I don't think she was here. Also, Commissioner Alpert. Did I see you sneak in? Mayor. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, ma'am. Okay. And I do need, I'm going to read through this quickly. While I have been involved with the CCNA board, there has been an ongoing conversation trying to understand what is political and what should be, and should we become political. And like any other political, philosophical, or religious discussion, there was always an extra opinion, always. If there were 7 of us in the room, there seemed to be 8 opinions. Thinking one more opinion wouldn't hurt, I went surfing for a good explanation of what is political and what isn't. Although I'm still unsure of a good working definition, I came across this comment by Churchill. Politics is the ability to foretell what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year, and to have the ability afterwards to explain why it didn't happen. We can only hope to be that clever. I would like to recognize last year's outgoing members, Eileen Normell, who now is a delegate sitting directly across from me. Thank you. Secretary Ron Cashton, who is now candidate for District 2. Dan DeLeo, who is not here, very busy guy, missed him. And District 3 Representative Kathy Kelly-Ulrich, who is running for District 3 City Commission. I very much enjoyed working with these folks and will miss their input at our board meetings. I must say one thing about Kathy. She and I had a few conversations, mostly friendly, sometimes not, but always, and almost always, she was right. If the 4 of you, the 3 of you will stand, I'd like to give you a round of applause for your volunteers. Thank you. We have one other thank you I want to give to Kelly Brown, who is our District 1 representative, who has attended numerous of our neighborhood meetings in District 1. I'm very happy. She has put herself out there. She is not online, so I will say that to her later. So welcome at new board members. At the December meeting, we voted in a new board of 3 of whom are new. Flo Antler, sitting over here, an excellent communicator. I've watched her at City Hall a lot. I love the way she talks to those people. Did you hear that, those people?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm sorry. She's a personal fitness trainer. She's also the president of Arlington Park Neighbor Association. Melinda Delpeche, our new District 2 representative. She has been the president of Tahini Park Neighbor Association since 2016 and has been an active member in the North Trail Redevelopment Partnership. And she is an attorney at the Band Law Group. And Dan Frank, who's sitting right next to me, our new secretary, I had my eye on Dan for some time. I could not help notice that he's very organized and his comments are well considered. A cyber stalk revealed an impressive broad list of activities and accomplishments during with online accessibility for users and disabilities, and an opera tenor.
not quite opera level.
That's another person. Okay, I want to mention that Lou is back as our immediate past president. Welcome, Lou. Welcome, you others. Thank you for your service. I'm excited to be working with this group. We have every reason to believe that 2024 will be a very productive year for the association. Even though we have had some very talented people on previous boards, I firmly believe this board is at least equally talented, that our commitment to our neighborhoods is unequal. And that commitment will show in the number and quality of our accomplishments. I'm very proud and humbled to be part of this team. Looking at 2023, we updated our bylaws. We had the neighborhood only summit. A little bit about this later. We had a presentation from Cody Glazer of the Florida Housing Coalition on the new Live Local Act for affordable housing. Ron Turner, Supervisor of Elections. The Meaningful Input Committee and Development Services started a review of the application and permitting process. And I have an announcement to make. I'll do that later. For Development Services. We now have a case planner that accompanies every application to the DRC that we have access to. And each application must identify the neighborhood in which it is they're intended to build. We have presentations and discussions about upcoming ZTAs because of meaningful neighborhood input. Witness today. That was a great exchange. We'll see, we will push forward with some of the comments that were brought up today. We had some luck talking with engineering about traffic safety and warrants. Even though it was completed this year, Jim, Carl, and Chris got the vacation rental registry expanded citywide. This was another interesting conversation at the commission. And our website was improved and expanded. Thinking about next year, and now this is the politician thinking out loud. Is Sarasota home or is it a playground? We have the city registry now, which should help control noise and other obnoxious behaviors, but it doesn't stop companies from cherry picking our neighborhoods clean of good, affordable homes for ourselves. We're about neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are about people and dwellings, for people and things, and the things that make living here good. Let me paraphrase Bob Fournier. We're worried about the erosion of the single housing neighborhood. To add to this, the shortage of good, affordable homes, we have a lot of people moving into Florida. The census showed that 1,218 new people a day are coming to Florida. 15 of those are coming to Sarasota County. The U.S. News Real Estate ranks Sarasota as the second fastest growing region in the U.S. There's a lot of pressure on housing in this town. This migration will bring a lot of issues to the surface. We know some of them, like traffic and noise. Others will surprise us to some degree or another. I think we need to keep our heads on a swivel. What I hope we can get done this year, identify long-range strategic initiatives from your input at the summit. Meaningful Input wants to incorporate a checklist for compatibility in the development review process. Neighborhood safety will continue its conversation with engineering about neighborhood traffic and the warrant. The program for February will be a refresher and update on Click to Fix and the Gillespie spreadsheet. And I was hoping Kelly or her mother would be here today to explain a little bit. But they have an inventory of all their improvements going back 20 years and all the ones they want in the next 20 years. Did I say that right, Linda? Thank you. Okay, March program will be a panel on housing and homelessness. May program will be a panel on voter information. June will be a candidate forum. And of course, December, will be our neighborhood award, elect a couple new officers, and of course, we're gonna party. That's enough. Thank you for listening to my rant. Next year, I will explain why none of it happened. And if we can, I need to, you have the agenda. What do we have next? Are we ready to go into business? What time do we have? Let's do a treasurer's report first. We have a quorum, and so I'm calling the business session to meeting together right now. And I have done my report, and now we need a treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carl Shoffstall. I've been here quite a long time, and I was asked to be the treasurer this year. So I'm going to ask Linda, since I've been around so long, am I the only one that has served on every position on a board since this thing started? Because I cannot remember anybody else that has done the different things that I've done, but I'll talk to you. Yeah, okay. All right, well, everybody, Happy New Year. Hope it's a healthy one and prosperous. All right, so taking over this in the beginning balance from November the 4th to December 31st, we had 65,34.47, and the ending balance that we have right now in the bank is 59,73.84. There was some deposits for membership, and then there was some expenses for the internet and so forth. So I have this here if anybody would like to look at it, and I'm sure it's online that somebody can look at it if they would like. A couple things that I do want to say is I want to mention that the dues are now due, along with the current information sheets that we send out. If you changed any of the directors or anybody on your board or your delegates here, we need a new current updated sheet, completely filled out, please. And you can email that to the Sarasota website, and it's Sarasota.
Well, you can, it's on the application. The application's on the website. But treasurer at Sarasota CCNA.org.
Or I'm here early setting up the tables, and we'll be taking them down, and if anybody has that paperwork and they want to hand it to me directly, I will take it and we will get it put into the files. Again, thank you very much. Look to do a good job.
All right, we need to approve the minutes. Do I have any changes to the minutes? The December minutes. They were very simple, actually. If there are no discussion, by unanimous consent, the minutes are approved. As to it, one report, I was asked to announce Myra Schwartz will be moving out of the state. Her last day will be 1/19 of this month. Allison Christie, Development Review Chief Planner, is going to be promoted into that position. So, if you have questions directed to planning, you want to talk to the or Development Services, Allison Christie is now the person, our contact person. Thank you. Moving on. I would ask Jim to say a few words about where we are with the information from the summit.
Where we are with the summit is we are still compiling everything. We've put it into categorized and rank order, and I posted that on the website earlier this week. So if you want to, you can at least go out and see that number 1 is safety and health, and number 2 is planning, and number 3 is, what is number 3? Code compliance and enforcement. Those are the three biggest issues we probably will generate initiatives out of. All the things on the summit sheet are important items, but many of them can be handled in a smaller group, a one-on-one with a particular staff person or something like that, as opposed to initiatives. And what we're going to try to do now is come up with initiatives. Don't assume that health and safety is the definition of health and safety. There are things in there like police presence and air quality and crossing streets and that kind of thing, homelessness. Planning is not the planning department necessarily. It has to do with having a comprehensive idea of how this community is going to be put together and continue to grow, etc., and how we can do it together. And the same thing with code compliance and enforcement. It's not just the Diane's, Kennedy's area, it's the whole concept of compliance and enforcement all over, across the board. And so where we are with it real quick is we're going to put together a subcommittee of the new board, and we will be working in January with getting some initiatives identified and agreed from the board, and then we will present them to the membership and allow you then to enhance them, make sure that we're on the right page and that we understand all the kinds of things that you put in to the conversation. That should happen, I'm hoping, in February.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, can I ask you to formalize your comments for us to consider?
Sure.
I think we should.
I'm glad to try to recreate.
Thank you.
Is there a tape run?
Yes, there is actually. No. By formalizing, I mean put it in writing.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
I'll send the note to the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. If there's anything else that we want to discuss right now, let's move on to neighborhood reports. And the infamous Nick Patel is here to replace Pat Robinson, who probably is indisposed this morning. And if we give him a chance to get up here. I think everything that was on the November punch list for Pat was addressed. That could be. Remember, as we go around, if you want your comments in the minutes, please send an email to me. I'll get it to our secretary so that he can include them. Also, if there's an issue in your neighborhood that we need the city to look at, please bring it up, and Nick will make record of it and make sure that things happen. So we're going to go this way today. And since you're the McClellan Park representative still, I'm going to ask you to start, Dan.
Okay, thank you, Daniel Frank, McClellan Park. Really just one thing I'll note, Nick, which is that, we've talked at various times about the drainage in the neighborhood. So big improvement on Meta, thanks to the improvements the city made there. We have been hearing a lot from residents on Oval, particularly the north side of Oval, the oval-shaped block there, that there are significant drainage problems after a rain like today's, and really water standing for days at a time, which passes the threshold, I think. It's not entirely clear what the cause is. I've gone over and looked at them, but if it's something the city could maybe take a look at, particularly again after a rain like this, maybe drive the neighborhood, take a look at where we're getting pooling and maybe what the causes might be. I've heard a lot, gotten kind of an earful from the residents up there on Oval, and I agree when I look at it. Thank you.
Melinda Delpage, Tahiti Park, and I have no report. I'm second delegate for Arlington Park, so I'm gonna let Rob Grant take the shot.
Hi, Miles Tobin, South Poinsettia Park. Our issues continue to be lighting, street resurfacing, and traffic calming. And we do appreciate Pat Robinson and his team and Nancy Kelly and her team working with us on addressing those issues. If we're mentioning specifics, and it sounds like we are, it looks like a couple of our streets are on target for resurfacing in 2024. One that's come to my attention, which we'd like the city to take another look at, is Hyde Park Street between Osprey and Tamiami. That's a lot of trees are raising the level of the street, so it's a tough drive. So the city take a look at that one and see if that could be added to 2024. That would be appreciated.
Hi, Chris Golian of St. Armand's, and I just want to thank Nick Patel and your many colleagues for being available and responsive to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ron Ashton, Laurel Park. Nick, this is one for you, actually, just a really quick one. There's a bad pothole on Oak Street. It's already been reported click to fix, but it's about maybe 5 weeks still out there. For Laurel Park, what the biggest thing right now is going on is development, and we're still waiting for Benderson to get back to us regarding the county building. But I do want to draw everybody's attention to the Corridor ZTAs, because it is a complete rewrite. These are all brand new zoning districts. So what used to be 15 zoning districts are going to go down to 3. And
That's not you.
yeah. And the aspects of the zoning districts change entirely. So the massing that you're going to see out on the street is going to be different, because they do have a sunshine plane that's on the back of the lot. But I was trying to get an idea of what driving down these corridors would be like. And the closest building I could get to was the county jail building on Ringling. And the county jail building is 80 feet rather than the 90 feet that can possibly be on the corridors. But the county building, the jail, actually has a greater setback than what the corridors are. So if you want to get a general idea of what possibly is coming down the pike, just drive down Ringling, look at the county jail building, and you'll get an idea. This is something we really need to focus on, because the ZTA text just came out. So you should all just be aware. Thank you.
Hi, Jessie here. Wishing you all a joyful new year. As we step into the new year, the Lido Key Residents Association is excited to announce its upcoming members meeting on January 20th at the Lido Beach Resort beginning at 10 a.m. We are honored to have Deputy City Manager Pat Robinson as our guest speaker, who will provide a comprehensive update on the state of the city affairs. We eagerly anticipate his insights, which will undoubtedly be great interest to the Lido Key Residents Association. Looking forward to seeing you at the meeting and wishing everyone a prosperous and joy-filled year ahead.
Hello, Rob Grant, Arlington Park. Hey, Nick. One real specific is Shade and Prospect. The sidewalk, it's torn up as like on both sides of Prospect. There are a couple cones there. It's semi-marked off. It's been like this for a long time. It's pretty bad. And then speeding continues to be a problem in our neighborhood. The neighborhood association has received 3 phone calls recently. So we're actually gonna, Nick, maybe reach out to you and see if we could schedule you or someone to come out and talk about speeding and warrants and explain to folks, because there's been inquiries about this sort of thing. So, so we'll reach out to you on that. We continue to have, of course, in our neighborhood, like all neighborhoods, it's being redeveloped, and in some cases not really to the character that the neighborhood is. For instance, I just noticed that there were 11 new listings added by Courtyard Modern Homes east of the trail between Weber and Bay Vista. The list prices for these homes range from $1.79 million to $3.23 million. That is not the historical nature of Arlington Park. And I don't know if there's anything the city could ever do to, implement design standards for our neighborhoods and try and prevent this sort of thing, because we end up with boxes next to, smaller single-family homes, and it's just really disappointing. So on a lighter note, next Sunday, the Arlington Park Neighborhood Association will present its second annual free concert in the park. So everybody in the city is invited to come. We have Passerine. Last year we did Hot SRQ. We had 100 plus minus people there. It was a wonderful day. Everybody comes out to the park. We set it up. The board makes desserts. We bring a little bit of food. We supply drinks. You come out, bring chairs, put out a blanket, listen to some music. It's from 12 to 3. The band plays from 1 to 3. I've got some flyers here. I'll pass them around, take them out, let people know. But it's a really good time. We had a great time last year. It's free, and so we invite everyone. Hope to see everybody there. Thanks, guys.
Bring a picnic lunch. We supply water and soda and dessert.
I'm Laurel Korberg from Central Coconut Neighborhood Association, and we have two kind of important things to report. First is, the good news is the team that's been working on focusing on the USR problem with the crushing of the concrete, things are moving along. We now have 7 of the monitors up, 3 video cameras, and 1 weather station. So we're finally getting some really hard evidence that the divide to the city and the county, it really is a county issue, but all eyes on the problem is better. So that's really moving along in a good way. And the other thing is, on January 13th, mark your calendars, a lot of the organizations, the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program, MHI, a lot of the neighborhood associations are having their cleanup, Whitaker Bayou cleanup, January 13th, 9 a.m. to noon. We're going to have a free lunch too if you come out and help. If you're interested in the water and are willing to get in a kayak to clean up some of the trash, that would be great. And if you'd rather, the Orange Blossom Community Garden is also having cleanup that same morning. So January 13th, come on out and give us a hand. Thanks.
David Lowe, Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. Some good news and compliments. The Rosemary Park is under construction. If you haven't driven by it, they're making some decent progress. Some new sidewalks went in, Nick, thanks to your crew for that. So the park is probably about a quarter done at this point, but it's moving. The other thing is, somewhat for Marlon and Nick, I see on the January 16th commission agenda, the budget calendar for the next fiscal year is on there with the rollout of the various meetings and the eventual adoption in September, with 1 workshop on it. I'm recalling last year I made the observation that there would be benefit of residents having some input into the budget fairly early on. As we know, residents may not speak at workshops, so there's really, there has not been a chance, and I think Marlon committed to kind of work some, I don't know how that's gonna look, but the intent is early on, before the cake is half baked, that maybe we residents would have some inputs and some suggestions that are positive for what goes in the budget or what we see early on. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. How it gets on the calendar, I don't know, but just to have follow through on that kind of agreement last year. That's all I've got.
Charlie Nailschmidt, Broadway Promenade, as promised, a non-report, and as I pass the mic, my non-report is to thank Pat for his responsiveness always. Thank you.
Linda Hall in Gillespie Park. We wrapped up 2023 with a fabulous holiday party and had more than 80 people attend, which is the most we've had in a long time. So we're very happy about that. We're having our board elections in January. And next year we're going to focus on having more speakers from the city departments come to our meetings. We do hold monthly meetings, so we have a list of people that from the city we're going to be contacting. So, and we're just going to continue to do our park and neighborhood improvements. We have a wonderful neighborhood. We have more and more people moving in that are full-time residents, so we're happy about that. Thank you.
Norm DeMay from Glen Oaks Estates. We're excited because we have 3 new members of our board. They're going to bring new energy and excitement to the board, so that's wonderful for us. The big thing in terms of our area, of course, is the opening of Bobby Jones Golf Club and the Nature Park. Many cars for golf. Really do appreciate that. One thing, for the Nature Park, there's not a single sign that indicates there is a nature park there. Not in the front, not even close to the nature. I've walked and people say, gee, I didn't even know we could find this place. I would ask the city to consider the importance of signs so people can actually find the park and enjoy it. Also, where we are, there are a number of communities that need to cross Circus to get to the nature park. There are no crosswalks. I think in terms of safety, it would be important to have crosswalks across Circus so that people can safely get to the park. The other thing, in the process of construction, much of our Circus entrance has been disrupted, let me say. Some would say destroyed. We'd like to have, and it's a utilities issue, I understand that, but would like to have the area, improved. Like to have that area addressed and not allowed to just simply be in the condition it's in at this point. So otherwise, though, I do appreciate everything the city has been doing for us, and looking forward to a great new year.
Eileen Normile, Hudson Bayou. There's no report, but I would like to volunteer, Richard, to be on your code compliance committee if you do set one up, since that seems to be one of the big issues. It's something I've been involved in for so many years I can't count them. But that, or I'd like to speak with Pat and or Lucia. It became evident when Diane Kennedy was here that there are legal loopholes that prevent the introduction of evidence in front of the magistrate. And that was never known by any of us. And I was hoping that somebody would address that, but I don't know if it has been addressed, but I don't believe it has. So that's just a significant thing that I think would be important. The other thing is, in the December meeting, there were a couple of us who brought up the question of putting on this agenda or some future agenda the possibility of introducing the slate of officers for CCNA a month ahead of the election so that the neighborhoods can see it and have some input into it. So I was wondering what happened with that. So if you could talk about that at some point, that would be appreciated. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. Henry Bryan. I'm the, is that close enough? I'm the assistant to the president of Toast Court Neighborhood Association, Hannah Bryan. Otherwise, I'm a husband. I have 1 degree, she has about 5, so, I'm not as smart. I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. It's going to be a tough year, not just Sarasota, but America. like to report, we're a fairly new neighborhood association, but we've had 2 new businesses last year were formed. One was the Salon 1968 on Adams Lane, and I'm happy to report that you see a lot of stories. We've gotten a lot of attention, by the way. Sarasota Magazine, Sarasota Observer does stories on the tension between land flippers, I suppose, developers, and residents. And I'm happy to report that in our time, there will never be a contiguous 5-story condominium on that side of Adams Lane, because we own the salon. Somebody offered us $1 million for it. Almost 3 times what we paid for it 3 years ago. It's a little scary. You all know that Artist Court, I think by now, has proposed, first of all, I liked the 139 units. It was terraced, it was set back, there were trees. That's gone. They come up with a new development. I think this is the 4th iteration in the last 3 years. It went from 139 to 242. That's a big damn jump. 100 units.
Wrap it up.
Elizabeth just reports to me that some development was just withdrawn the last few days. I don't know whether it's his first one or the second one. But we would just like to have a charrette or a community input session. Anna Marie has been able to talk to the developer, but we'd like to have a session in which we discuss setbacks and height and how it's going to go down. We're not against this, but we would like to have community input as everyone else would. Thank you very much.
Hi, Elizabeth Rose, Bay Point Park Neighborhood Association. No report other than we have our annual meeting in February. Thank you.
Hi, Randy Winters, Bird Key. I just am going to reiterate a few things that you probably are aware of. One, I'm going to make reference to a December 28 email, I think that was directed to you, that referred to milling and paving. There's 4, 5 different roads within Bird Key that I think we've been talking about since 2020-21. So that's the first. Second, restriping of many streets. The white and the yellow striping of the streets are very worn. They need restriping. Speeding on Bird Key Drive, we don't need to talk about that again. I know you're aware of that. And then lastly, Bird Key Park, it's been quite noisy. There's drag racing, there's speeding going over the causeway that occurs along Seagull Lane. Of course, anybody living anywhere near Seagull Lane hears that at like crazy hours. So I'm sure you're aware of it. I don't know how to deal with it, but the noise along the causeway by Bird Key Park is pretty excessive.
Barbara Beard, San Remo. I have a question. Is there a schedule on street repaving? Because I've noticed there are a lot of streets like Palm Avenue, Siesta Drive that are really, kind of degrading. Is there a schedule of what streets are going to be repaved at what time?
Yeah, I can address that. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the other thing that I have is we have a property now in San Remo that is 3 boxes on top of each other that's going for $10 million. So you should drive by and take a look.
Dean Anderson, Avondale. Wanted to announce our 100th anniversary as a neighborhood this year. Thank you. We have many plans throughout the year. The first one will be next month, where we have our annual business meeting at Marina Jacks on February 26th. And we have a lot of different activities going on during the year. You'll be seeing the city grant. We're going to be applying for an infrastructure upgrade in the middle of our neighborhood. I wanted to thank the city for the speed mitigation on South Osprey. That was a huge issue for us and Hudson Bayou. people. Because of the, after the bridge was redone, there's been a lot of traffic on South Osprey. They go along pretty quickly, and it's been pretty dangerous there. So that's helped the 2 signs that we put in there, but we're actually asking for either a crosswalk or 2 on South Osprey for the residents in our neighborhood to be able to go over to Hudson Bayou, to Selby Gardens or downtown, the Merck Trail. Maybe at Alta Vista in South Osprey, maybe at Irving and Alta Vista, or both would be lovely. The only way you can cross over there safely is at Via Vista, so that's why we're asking that. We've had some pushback a little bit from your traffic people, so I'd like to see if we could do something about that. We also had, last month we had a very successful food drive with Meals on Wheels. We do that every year, and we had a huge successful drive right before Christmas for those in need there. And lastly, I'm just thinking about January 6th, a few years ago today. So think about that when you vote next November.
Thank you. Jerry Fagan from Glen Oaks Ridge. And I just want to reiterate what Norm brought up at the estates is the lack of safety going across circuit. Now that the golf course is open, there is no way to get across safely. That is a very, very speedy road. It's straight and it's pretty dangerous. Also, that our entrance is still under construction, and there's no need for that. The whole thing is, of course, is the new golf course across the street, the Gillespie course. It has been, the water and sewage has torn up our side of the street, and it's ongoing for 6 months now, and it leaves our driveways coming and going just a pile of dirt, and we would like to see that expedited. Also, on a lighter note, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary, and I'm sorry, that doesn't mean much compared, but we're quite proud that we had a great party. And I thank you all, and have a great year, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, Leslie Spangler, Alta Vista. The only issue that we have is with the Sarasota High School. And as speakers in the sports field are unreasonably loud for some of the neighbors. And so we're going to try to get, it happens after the normal hours, school hours. So we're going to try to see if we can get a contact person to speak with about that. And that's all.
We hear it in Arlington Park, so I can only imagine what it's like in Alta Vista.
We can hear it in the Holland Park.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Judy Mower from Golden Gate Point, and again, I'm here to whine about how we have 4 construction projects going on. Like many others, I've had to replace tires on my car. They're supposed to sweep for nails and other debris, but they don't. 4 projects, 3 more to start soon. The pickup trucks arrive around 7 in the morning. We need parking enforcement, because a good many of them park tail end so that their trailer hitches extend out over the sidewalk, and people have to walk single file behind them. So that would be helpful. And of course, as you know, we're a self-taxing district to pay for streetscape maintenance and our irrigation water, and as you can imagine, our expenses have gone sky high. So I guess that's the issue, and it's going to be the issue for a while. We're meeting tomorrow morning because we're closing in on a design to replace those monument walls that at the beginning of the entrance of Golden Gate Point that are kind of old-fashioned, and we want to kind of upgrade them a little bit. And our annual meeting is going to be on February 14th at Bird Key Yacht Club. So thank you very much. Parking enforcement, please, we need the help.
Richard Parlato, alternate to Indian Beach Sapphire Shores. We had our semi-annual meeting about 2 weeks ago, and the issues that came up there, well, first of all, we had the compliance manager make a presentation, and that was very informative, and he's in conflict with the state regulation about how to report issues. You have to now have a name and address. You can't just do a report by a citizen. and that inhibits a lot of people, we think, from making those kinds of reports. Speeding is an ongoing issue in our neighborhood. We're the alternate to the trail on Bayshore and Sarasota Ave, and lots of kids going to school, the elementary school, so on bicycles, so we're really concerned about that. And we have one of the larger projects being on the trail being built by Roar, and got approval with a couple of variances on it. Our concern has to do with large projects like that and the development of the site with very little input about the neighborhood. So the neighborhood gets a vinyl fence as the alternate to what we're doing internally on the project. So we have concerns about that, as well as access points on 42 and also for access onto 41 onto the trail. So those are the big concerns that we have, and we'd really like to see the zoning deal with issues outside of the lot that has to do with the neighborhood and how it affects the neighborhood. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jody Geiger with Bayou Oaks. We've had a couple good things happen at the North Water Tower Park this year. They've added some pet waste stations and they've painted the tower, which looks really great. Having some problems with some sidewalks that are not quite passable, and we could always use more sidewalks, especially on Roma, which leads up to North Water Tower Park and is a pretty much main entrance. The other thing is we had a very successful neighborhood event last year, the Easter egg hunt, and we're planning on doing something similar again this year. And then we also had a warrant study done for the roundabout at Myrtle and Old Bradenton Road, and we're really looking forward to hearing what your results are on that. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Our new second vice president wanted to a few minutes to say something. Joanne?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can the room hear me, or do you need the mic to your laptop? Oh, it's up there. Okay. All right. I would just like to say thank you for allowing me to be your new second vice and membership chair. I will be working very closely with District 1, District 2, and District 3 chairs as far as neighborhood issues. And my goal this year is to try to get in a few new neighborhoods into CCNA. So that would definitely be a positive for us. So again, I would like to say thank you, and I'm hoping to be there in February for the meeting. I just booked my flight. My husband fell in December and broke his elbow in 2 places. So we are up here in Massachusetts right now for PT and doctor's appointments. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Nick.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nick, and I'm filling in for Pat. Just to address some of the items for November, we did address most of the items in there. The bus stop street light at 25th and Central, we did address the lighting over there. At McClellan Park, those pothole, we did address that as well. And I did take some notes additionally from today as well. And the comments that were provided today, I will take note of that, and we'll try to address that as well at the next meeting. Bake Park Point, there's questions about if Selby did have the certificate of occupancy. At this point, they only have temporary certificate of occupancy, but no final occupancy has been provided for that. Harbor Acres, there was issues with construction trucks on the corner of Fowler and Harbor. We did talk to the construction folks there, and as long as they're not blocking access or blocking the roadway, they are parking off the right of way, and they are working closer to, I know there's 3 construction homes that are getting built at that location. And then there was issues about speeding on John Ringling, and SPD is working on high visibility grant, and there should be additional traffic enforcement over there. And just to address the high level mill and resurfacing questions, to address that, we're going to be putting a mill and resurfacing contract out there. And just to let you know, since 3 years that the last contract that was out there was 3 years ago, and since that point, those construction costs have escalated quite a bit. And so what we're doing is we're prioritizing based on pavement condition reporting, and again, we'll try to address that more as once we get the bids in, and we'll try to address and prioritize the need. I do hear a lot of mill and resurfacing needs across the city, but again, we're going to try to look at the next contract and see what the costs are, and then come up with a plan on how we're going to address some of these issues. With that, that's all I have. Thanks, Richard, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. We do have, we have 15 minutes left before we need to bug out. Flo, would you be in the mic person for a few minutes? Commissioner Smith, you have 1 minute of comments? You don't have to. It's not obligatory. Push on the bottom. Push on the bottom button. No, not yet. Here, give him this one. Good grief.
There we go. Just wanted to say Happy New Year, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you. Sorry? Oh, okay. Anyway, I just wanted to, when you have issues, please get a hold of me, mhsmith@scgov.net. Geez, I don't even know that. Still early for me. Anyway, so please get a hold of me. I know your city does a great job taking care of you, but there's oftentimes having to do mainly with stormwater today and things like that that the county can help you out with. But by all means, get a hold of me whenever there's an issue. Thanks.
Is Commissioner Trice still here?
No, she left.
Okay.
I'd just like to thank Mark for sending in county reinforcements on air quality to help with the U.S. recycling issue, because that's been a big plus getting all of that equipment in place. So thank you.
Well, also I want to say Happy New Year to everyone this year. Looking forward to a really, I think, good year. Welcome back, Lou. I'm so glad to see you back involved with CCNA. So thank you all, and I always get a lot of information out of this meeting. That's why I like to come.
Good morning, everybody. I was actually surprised to see so many people here, although I know this group is a hardy group with that rain and that storm. So kudos to everyone who braved the storm and are here. As always, Happy New Year, and reach out to me anytime you have any issues. Our meeting schedule is going to start getting a little bit more dense over the next year, I think. So pay attention, attend, speak, write, do e-comments, click to fix, everything you need to do. You all know how to do to get in touch with us, to let us know what's going on in your world. So thank you all for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to again thank CCNA for allowing staff the ability to provide whatever information we need to provide, giving them the ability on Saturdays to respond to any issues that you all have. And so I always thank you for allowing us the audience and the respect to present to CCNA. So thank you very much.
to Joanne Gannett. I have some neighborhoods I would also like to add to CCNA, so let's get together. I'll get in touch with you.
She'll get in touch with you. We'll take care of it. I'll tell you what she said.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
I didn't hear her,
I know. Okay.
and I don't know who it was.
It was the infamous, inimitable Nancy Kelly.
Oh, okay, thank you, Nancy.
Okay, so that, I want to thank our Archangel Esther for rescuing some, in the middle of a downpour, getting us some batteries for the microphones.
Which is not working.
Thank you, it should be. Wrong. How about this one?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming out in this terrible weather this morning. It is most appreciated. There is somebody coming in behind us, so if I could ask everyone, as you're leaving, take your chair to the wall. That would be most appreciated, and then we will need to break down the tables. If I forget this, my wife will yell at me. Turn your phones back on, please. And with that, we are adjourned.